My mother-in-law called me a gold digger at my own wedding, so I showed 200 guests the prenup she demanded. Karen grabbed the microphone at my wedding reception, smiled at 200 guests, and called me a gold digger. I was still holding my champagne. My new husband's hand was warm on my back. The fairy lights my mother had spent 3 days hanging were twinkling above us, and somewhere behind me, my grandmother was crying happy tears into a napkin. And Karen, my mother-in-law, the woman who'd spent 2 years trying to destroy my relationship with her son, stood at the head table with a crystal flute in one hand and a wireless mic in the other. And she said this: "I want to welcome Sarah to our family." Her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. Some people wondered why my son chose someone from her background, but love is blind, I suppose, even when someone clearly married up. The room went silent. Not the comfortable silence of a pause between toasts. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring. "I'm just glad we had that prenup," Karen continued, her eyes locked on mine. "When this ends, Marcus keeps what's his." She laughed. One single, performative laugh, like she'd told a joke. Nobody laughed with her. I felt Marcus stiffen beside me, felt my mother's hand grip my arm, felt every eye in that room shift from Karen to me, waiting to see if the bride would cry, run, or crumble. 2 years of her comments, 2 years of biting my tongue, keeping the peace, being the bigger person. I set down my champagne glass, straightened my veil, and walked directly to the microphone. Karen's smile flickered. "Thank you, Karen," I said, my voice steady as bedrock. "Let's talk about that prenup." I need to back up. I met Marcus Whitmore during my 3rd year of nursing school. I was 24, working 3 jobs, hospital cafeteria during the week, private tutoring on weekends, and overnight shifts at a 24-hour pharmacy when I could squeeze them in. I slept 4 hours a night. I ate ramen and hope. Marcus was a 2nd-year medical student, which sounds impressive until you realize that medical students are basically well-dressed zombies who survive on caffeine and existential dread. We met in the hospital cafeteria at 2 a.m., both of us running on fumes, and he asked if he could share my table because every other seat was taken. 3 months later, we were inseparable. 6 months after that, he asked me to meet his family. I should have known something was wrong when he warned me in advance. "My mom can be intense," he said on the drive to their house in Westbrook Heights. "She's protective, old-fashioned. She might ask a lot of questions." "That's fine," I said. "Parents always ask questions. Just don't take it personally, okay? Whatever she says." That should have been my first red flag. The Whitmore house was exactly what you'd expect from old Connecticut money. A sprawling colonial revival with white columns and a circular driveway and a lawn so perfect it looked like it had been trimmed with nail scissors. Karen met us at the door, wearing pearls and a cashmere cardigan, her blonde hair styled in that specific way that wealthy women over 50 seem to learn at some secret finishing school. She looked me up and down before she said hello. Her eyes stopped at my shoes. "Payless?" she asked. I blinked. "Sorry? Your shoes?" She smiled thinly. "They're from Payless, aren't they?" My face went hot. They were. I'd bought them on clearance for $14.99 because I'd needed something that didn't have scuff marks, and I'd spent my last real paycheck on textbooks. "Mom," Marcus started. "It's fine," Karen said, stepping aside to let us in. "I'm just making conversation. Some people are sensitive about these things." That was the first 5 minutes. It got worse. Over coffee served in china cups that probably cost more than my monthly rent, Karen interrogated me like I was applying for a security clearance. Where did I grow up? Working class neighborhood in Hartford. What did my parents do? Dad was a mechanic. Mom worked at a grocery store. How much debt did I have? At the time, about $12,000 in student loans. What were my career plans? Become a nurse. Help people. She nodded at each answer like she was filing them away for later use. Like she was building a case. "Marcus is going to be a surgeon," she said finally, setting down her cup. "Did he tell you that?" "Yes," he mentioned. "The Whitmores have been in medicine for 3 generations. My husband was chief of surgery at Hartford General before he passed. My father was a cardiologist. We have a legacy to maintain." "That's wonderful," I said. "Marcus is going to be amazing." Karen smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sure you think so." For 2 years, Karen made her opinion of me clear at every opportunity. At Thanksgiving, she asked loudly, in front of Marcus's entire extended family, when I was planning to get a real job. I was 6 months away from graduating with a BSN, working 60-hour weeks between school and 3 jobs, maintaining a 3.9 gigapascals. She made it sound like I was unemployed. At Christmas, she gave everyone in the family expensive gifts: Hermes scarves, designer watches, rare wines, and handed me a $25 Walmart gift card with a note that said, "For necessities." At Marcus's birthday dinner, she wondered out loud if I was only with Marcus for his future salary. She said it to his aunt, but she said it loud enough for everyone to hear, including me. Once, I overheard her in the hallway at Thanksgiving, pulling Marcus aside. "She's pretty," Karen whispered, "but pretty fades. Debt doesn't." I stood frozen around the corner, my heart pounding, waiting for Marcus to defend me. He didn't. "Mom, please," he said. "Can we not do this today?" That was it. That was his defense. "Can we not do this today?" I told Marcus it hurt, multiple times. "She's just protective," he'd say, sighing like I was the one being unreasonable. "She'll warm up when she knows you better." She didn't. My best friend Priya said the same thing. "Just ignore her. She's from a different generation. It's not personal." It felt personal. My own mother told me to keep the peace. "Don't make waves before the wedding, honey. You're joining their family. Be the bigger person." So I stayed quiet, smiled through every dinner, laughed at her jokes that weren't jokes, started wondering if maybe they were all right. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I didn't belong in his world. Maybe I never would. The engagement happened in April of my final year of nursing school. Marcus proposed on a bridge in the park where we'd had our first real date. He got down on one knee, pulled out a ring that his grandmother had left him, and asked if I'd spend the rest of my life with him. I said yes, obviously. I was so happy I forgot, for about 30 seconds, that Karen existed. Then we called his family to share the news. Karen's first words were, "Have you considered a prenuptial agreement?" Not congratulations, not welcome to the family, not even that's wonderful. Have you considered a prenuptial agreement? Marcus's face went red. Mom, we just got engaged. Can we? I'm serious, Marcus. You need to protect yourself. You're going to be a surgeon. You'll have significant earning potential. And I could hear Karen choosing her words carefully. She has a different financial profile. Karen, I said, surprising myself with how calm my voice was. I think a prenup is a great idea. Silence on the other end of the line. You do? Marcus asked. Absolutely. Let's do it. My lawyer will draft it. Karen's voice came through, sharp with surprise. Your lawyer? My uncle is a family attorney. He specializes in estate planning and prenuptial agreements. He'd be happy to help. More silence. I could practically hear Karen recalculating. Well, she said finally, that's unexpectedly reasonable of you. I want us both protected, I said sweetly. Isn't that what you want too? My uncle, David Chen, had been practicing family law for 31 years. He'd drafted hundreds of prenuptial agreements, handled high-asset divorces, and once testified as an expert witness in a case that made national news. When I called him about my situation, he listened to everything: the comments, the Walmart gift card, the pretty fades whisper, and then he laughed. Not at me, at Karen. She wants a prenup? He said. Perfect. Let's give her one. The document he drafted was airtight, 27 pages of legal precision that protected both parties equally, which, in practice, meant it protected me more. Here's what Karen didn't know. By the time I graduated nursing school, I had $47,000 in savings. No debt. I'd worked 3 jobs for 6 years, lived in a studio apartment the size of a closet, eaten more ramen than any human should consume, and put every spare penny into a savings account and a Roth IRA. Marcus, meanwhile, had $12,000 in savings and $180,000 in student loans. The prenup stated that in the event of divorce, each party would retain their premarital assets and receive 50% of any assets acquired during the marriage. It also protected any inherited property from division. 3 months before the wedding, my grandmother passed away and left me her house in Fairfield. Appraised value, $340,000. The prenup Karen had demanded, the one she assumed would protect her precious son from the gold-digging nurse, actually protected that house forever. Mine, not ours. Mine. Karen never read it. She just assumed it favored Marcus. That was her first mistake. The wedding was scheduled for June 15th. The night before, I couldn't sleep. I sat alone in my apartment at 2:47 a.m., staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of traffic outside my window. In 12 hours, I would walk down an aisle and marry the man I loved in front of 200 people. It should have been the happiest night of my life. Instead, I felt like I was going to throw up. Karen's voice kept echoing in my head. Gold digger. Married up. Pretty fades. I looked around my apartment. The nursing degree on the wall, graduated summa cum laude. The acceptance letter from Hartford Regional, framed next to it, hired at the best hospital in the city. Starting salary, $78,000 a year. The bank statement on my desk, showing $47,382.54 in savings. Marcus made $55,000 as a resident. He would make more eventually, sure. But right now, right this moment, I was the higher earner. I was the one with savings. I was the one who'd clawed her way out of nothing, while he floated through medical school on family, money, and loans. But none of that mattered to Karen. To her, I would always be the girl from the wrong side of town, the gold digger, the social climber who'd tricked her son into marriage. My chest tightened. My eyes burned. I picked up my phone, started typing a message to Marcus. I can't do this. My thumb hovered over the send button. Then I saw the prenup on my desk, the document Karen had demanded, the one my uncle had drafted, the one that said, in precise legal language, exactly what each of us was bringing to this marriage. I picked it up, read through it one more time, and something shifted in me. My jaw clenched. My hand stopped shaking. Karen wanted to play games at my wedding? Fine. I'd finish them. The ceremony was beautiful. 200 guests. Perfect June weather. White chairs arranged on the lawn of a historic estate Marcus's family had used for generations. My mother cried. My father walked me down the aisle with his shoulders squared and his chin up, looking like the proudest man in Connecticut. Karen wore white. Not ivory, not cream, white. A long white dress that brushed the ground, like she was competing with the bride. My sister saw it first and nearly choked on her champagne. Is she serious? Let it go, I said. It doesn't matter. It did matter. We both knew it. But I had bigger plans than making a scene about a dress. The vows were perfect. The kiss was perfect. The photos were perfect. For 3 hours, I let myself believe that maybe everything would be okay. Maybe Karen would see how happy we were and finally accept me. Maybe the prenup had been the turning point. Then came the reception. The toast started after dinner. My father went first. He told the story of the first time I brought Marcus home, how I'd been so nervous I'd burned the pot roast, and Marcus had eaten it anyway and said it was the best meal he'd ever had. He talked about watching me work 3 jobs through nursing school, never complaining, never giving up. He said he knew Marcus was the right man for me because he looked at me the same way my father looked at my mother, like the sun rose and set on my face. I cried. Marcus cried. Half the room cried. Then Marcus's brother gave a toast. Then my sister. Then Priya, my best best friend, who told an embarrassing story about our college days that made everyone laugh. And then Karen stood up. She'd been drinking. Not enough to be obviously drunk, but enough to loosen whatever filter she normally maintained in public. Her cheeks were flushed. Her smile was too wide. "I'd like to say a few words," she announced, reaching for the wireless microphone before the DJ could stop her. Marcus tensed beside me. "Mom, just a quick toast," Karen said, "to the happy couple." She turned to face the room. 200 people, dressed in their finest, watching the mother of the groom with polite attention. "I want to welcome Sarah to our family." Her smile sharpened. Some people wondered why my son chose someone from her background, but love is blind, I suppose, even when someone clearly married up. The room went still. I heard my mother inhale sharply, heard Marcus's brother mutter something under his breath, heard the clink of someone's fork against their plate in the sudden silence. Karen wasn't done. "I'm just glad we had that prenup." She raised her champagne glass like she was making a toast. "When this ends, Marcus keeps what's his." She laughed. Nobody laughed with her. I stood up. My legs were steady. My hands weren't shaking. I felt, in that moment, calmer than I'd ever felt in my life. Karen saw me coming. Her smile flickered just for a second, but she held her ground. She probably expected tears, maybe a dramatic exit, maybe a whispered confrontation that she could spin later as evidence of my instability. She didn't expect what came next. "Thank you, Karen," I said, taking the microphone from her hand. "Let's talk about that prenup." Her face went pale. I pulled out my phone. The prenup was saved in my documents. I'd transferred it there that morning, just in case. I opened the file and began to read. Article 4, Section 2. In the event of divorce, each party retains their premarital assets, plus 50% of shared assets acquired during the marriage. I paused. Let the words sink in. Current premarital assets. I looked up from the phone, looked directly at Karen. Sarah, $47,000 in savings and retirement accounts. Marcus, $12,000 in savings minus $180,000 in student loans. Someone gasped. Then another. I heard whispers rippling through the crowd. Heard someone say, "Wait, she has more than him?" "So technically, Karen," I kept my voice pleasant, almost conversational, "if this marriage ends tomorrow, your son owes me money, not the other way around." Karen's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "There's more." I scrolled down on my phone. Article 7, Section 1. Any property inherited by either party before or during the marriage remains the sole property of the inheriting party and is excluded from division. I looked up again. "My grandmother left me her house last year. Appraised value, $340,000. The prenup you demanded? It protects that house forever. Mine, not ours. Mine." The room was absolutely silent. "You wanted to protect your son from the gold digger." I smiled. It was not a kind smile. "You actually protected the gold digger from your son." Karen stood frozen at the head table. Her champagne glass was trembling in her hand. Her face had gone from pale to gray, like all the blood had drained out of her. Marcus stood up beside me, put his arm around my waist. "Mom," he said quietly. "Sit down." She sat. Not another word. Not for the rest of the night. The reception continued. People danced. People ate cake. People came up to me, one by one, to shake my hand or hug me or whisper. That was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. Marcus's Aunt Karen's own sister found me near the bar and said, "I've been waiting 20 years for someone to put her in her place. Thank you." My mother pulled me aside, tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry I told you to be the bigger person. You should have done that a long time ago." "It's okay," I said. The timing worked out. Karen left the reception early. She claimed a headache. Nobody believed her. On the way out, she stopped by my table. I thought, for a moment, that she might apologize, that the public humiliation had finally cracked through her armor. Instead, she leaned down and whispered, "You think you've won? This isn't over." I looked up at her, smiled. "Karen," I said pleasantly, "I've been out earning your son since the day I met him. I have more savings, less debt, and a house that will never be his. You spent 2 years trying to make me feel small, and all you did was give me a legally binding document that proves I'm not the gold digger in this relationship." Her jaw tightened. "So yes," I continued, "I think I've won, but if you'd like to keep playing, I'm happy to send a copy of the prenup to everyone on our Christmas card list. Your choice." She left without another word. That was 3 years ago. Marcus finished his residency. He's now a surgical fellow at one of the top programs in the country, making $127,000 a year. We're still married, still in love, still building a life together. His student loans are almost paid off. We've been aggressive about it. Every bonus, every tax refund, every spare dollar has gone toward that $180,000 number that used to hang over our heads. Last month, we made the final payment on the last $12,000. The debt that Karen was so worried about, gone. Meanwhile, our joint savings have grown. Our retirement accounts have grown. The house my grandmother left me has appreciated to $420,000. We're saving for our first home together. Something we'll buy as partners, with both our names on the deed, because that's how a marriage is supposed to work. Karen apologized once. About 6 months after the wedding, she called me. Her voice was stiff, rehearsed. "I want you to know," she said, "that I was just looking out for my son. I didn't mean to cause offense." "I understand," I said. Mothers worry. That was it. No real acknowledgement of what she'd done. No recognition that she'd spent 2 years making me feel worthless. Just, I was looking out for my son. Like that excused everything. I accepted the apology. What else could I do? She was still my mother-in-law. She would still be in my life, at family dinners and holidays and birthdays, for as long as Marcus and I were together. But I didn't forget. And every Christmas, I make sure to casually mention our savings balance. "Did I tell you we hit $200,000 in our retirement accounts?" I said last December, reaching for the gravy boat. The compound interest is really starting to add up. Karen nearly choked on her wine. I just smiled and poured myself another glass. Here's what Karen never understood. She looked at me and saw a poor girl from Hartford who got lucky. A nursing student with Payless shoes and $12,000 in debt who somehow tricked her brilliant son into marriage. She assumed that because I came from nothing, I would always be nothing. She didn't see the work. She didn't see the 3 jobs, the 60-hour weeks, the years of ramen and sacrifice. She didn't see the savings account I'd built dollar by dollar, the degree I'd earned while she was hosting charity luncheons, the career I'd carved out through sheer determination. She saw my shoes and made assumptions. That was her mistake. Last year, Karen had a health scare. Nothing serious, but enough to put her in the hospital for a few days. Marcus and I visited every day. I brought her flowers. I sat with her while the doctors ran tests. On the second day, when we were alone in the room, she looked at me with something like confusion. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked. "After everything I said?" I thought about it for a moment. "Because you're Marcus's mother," I said. "And because holding grudges takes energy I'd rather spend on my life." She was quiet for a long time. "I was wrong about you," she said finally. I don't know what I thought. That you were after his money. That you'd leave when things got hard." She shook her head. "You paid off his loans. You built a life together. You take care of each other. That's what marriage is." "I know." Her voice cracked slightly. "I didn't see it. I only saw what I was afraid of." It wasn't a full apology. Not really. But it was the closest Karen Whitmore had ever come to admitting she was wrong. I let it be enough. Marcus asked me once, about a year after the wedding, if I regretted what I'd done at the reception. "Do you mean publicly humiliating your mother in front of 200 people?" I asked. "Yeah, that." I thought about it. Thought about the 2 years of comments, the Walmart gift card, the whispered conversations I wasn't supposed to hear. Thought about the night before the wedding when I'd almost called it off because I'd started believing her. "No," I said. "I don't regret it." "Not even a little?" She spent 2 years trying to convince everyone, including me, that I was a gold digger, that I was only with you for money I didn't need. I looked at him. "She said it at our wedding, Marcus. In front of everyone we love. What was I supposed to do? Smile and take it?" He was quiet for a moment. "I should have defended you more," he said. "Before, when she was making those comments. I should have said something." "Yes, you should have. I'm sorry." "I know." We were quiet for a while. Then he laughed a small, rueful sound. "You know what's funny? When I proposed, I didn't even want a prenup," she insisted. "She said I needed to protect myself from," he made air quotes, "people who might take advantage. And instead, she protected me. The irony isn't lost on me." I smiled. "It's not lost on me either. That's why I mention our savings balance at Christmas." He laughed again. "You're terrible. I'm married to a Whitmore," I said. "I learned from the best. 3 years. That's how long it's been since I stood in front of 200 people and read my own prenup out loud. Since I watched Karen's face go white. Since I finally stopped being the bigger person and started being honest. I don't recommend public confrontation for everyone. It's risky. It can backfire. It can destroy relationships that might have been salvageable. But sometimes you need to stop being quiet. You need to stop smiling through the insults. You need to stand up, take the microphone, and tell the truth. Because here's what I've learned. People like Karen don't stop because you're nice. They don't stop because you ignore them. They don't stop because you keep the peace and don't make waves. They stop when they realize you're not afraid of them anymore. Karen thought I was weak because I was quiet. She thought my silence meant submission. She thought she could say whatever she wanted, and I'd just take it. She was wrong. I was quiet because I was waiting. I was waiting for the right moment. And when it came, when she grabbed that microphone and called me a gold digger in front of everyone I loved, I was ready. If you made it this far, hit like you've earned it. And if you've ever been told you're too sensitive for standing up for yourself, remember this. The people who tell you to be quiet are usually the ones who benefit from your silence. Don't give them what they want. Not anymore. Last Christmas, our retirement accounts hit $250,000. Karen didn't say a word. She just poured herself more wine.